Good evening, folks. Good evening. We are getting started. How are you doing? I'm good. We're good. I'm only 5'10". It's okay. It's okay. I'm only 5'10". Can you all hear me? Welcome. This light is killing me. I feel like I'm on first 48. All right, so we're getting started. My name is Akeem Dixon. I'm your host for this evening. We're going to talk about tactical urbanism, and it's just the nerdiest way of saying we're going to do what we want, when we want, how we want, because they won't do it. Right? So at any point, if you guys want to shout out other ways to say tactical urbanism, please raise your hand and you're allowed to do so. Now, first question of the evening, does anybody know who this handsome devil is behind me on the screen? Nobody? Okay. No, it's not J.J. His name is O-Dog. He is a character from Menace to Society. Has anybody ever seen that movie? Yes. Then how you don't know who O-Dog is? Come on, Justin. Speak up. You're about to be up here in a minute, so I need you to get your energy up. Damn it. All right. So, O-Dog famously said, "I'm young, I'm black, and I don't give a bleep." Most of you in this crowd are not young and black, but you all do not give a bleep. So inside of you, there's a little bit of O-Dog inside of all of you. So tonight we're going to have about 4 people come up on stage tonight. They're going to talk about tactical urbanism. They're going to talk about the O-Dog in them. But before we get started on all of that, we're going to have the amazing people that made this event happen tonight. You're going to get up out your seats, but you don't have any, and you're going to give them a round of warm applause for the folks from Fifth Square and the Urban Consulate and Woody Gritty.
Hi everybody, thanks so much for being here. Tell your friends who aren't here that we're Facebook Living the program from Urban Consulate's Facebook. Really, I want to thank John, because he's the one who reached out to us to co-host this event. So thanks, John.
Thank you, Michelle.
Just quickly, Jermaine and I work for Woody Gritty, and we are the co-hosts of a local program called Urban Consulate that's actually connected with national program called, well, it's called Urban Consulate. But the cities that it really is focused in on is Detroit and Philadelphia, thanks to Knight Foundation and a Knight Cities Challenge grant from a couple years ago. So we've been running programs for the last year, and we're ready to kick off, and this is actually kicking off our 2nd year of programming, so we're excited about that. And really just the very quick and dirty of what Urban Consulate is trying to do is create more conversations within cities and creating connections across cities. So very broad and general, but we're trying to create more intercity connection through conversations and programs and events just like this one. Jermaine?
So our next event is actually happening at Pipeline Philly, April 12th. We'd love for you guys to all show up. The topic is going to be based around how do you want your city or Philadelphia to be broadcasted and seen on a national level. So Michelle and I just got back from South by Southwest last week, and working with Amplify Philly and with one of our clients, we figured the next topic should be around how do we want to be seen nationally. So we're going to get like a group of people from that whole program to be there, and want you guys to be there, give your voice, give your opinion on how you want to see the city be seen nationally. So come see us. Thank you.
Just a few words about Fifth Square. I was one of the founders for that organization. It's a political action committee devoted to better public space, land use, transit in the city of Philadelphia. Endorses candidates for office. So you know, all the stuff you hear about here today, if you'll sign up for the email list, you'll find out which city council candidates are most supportive of that stuff. And yeah, we're working on a few different things right now. Campaign for free transfers, eliminating the $1 transfer charge for SEPTA between buses and subways, and a number of other initiatives like Vision Zero, protected bike lanes, transit-oriented development, zoning, a whole bunch of different stuff. You can sign up for the mailing list. You'll get information about that. So yeah, enjoy the presentations, and thanks for coming.
Let's give it up for Akeem.
Yeah.
He's going to be taking us on this journey for the next hour.
All right, guys. So first and foremost, hi to everybody up top. All you cool people up top. Nice to see you all. All right. So a little housekeeping for this evening. Our feature presenter tonight, Mike Lydon, could not make it because of transportation issues that are not SEPTA related. So he's going to Skype in though. So I'm going to do my best Stuart Scott impersonation. We're going to talk to him via computer, and I think David's going to help out a little bit. Say Dave, hi Dave. So Dave's going to do double duty tonight. So first coming to the stage, we have Lauren, and she has on an amazing shirt. She does cool stuff in the past with Big Bellies. She's worked for the mayor for 4 years. She's South Philly's finest right now. She's the president of the Beer Blockbuster. And she's just awesome. So get on up here. And we're going to do your spiel today. But we have to do some housekeeping. We're not done yet, folks. So come on. So she is the first person that has to answer my very important question, which is, and you guys all got to think about this tonight, if you were to compare your version and brand of tactical urbanism to a famous person, what would that person be and why? So, Lauren, you had some time to consider this. Can you please tell me who you would be as a tactical urbanism famous person?
So our brand of tactical urbanism would probably be that of Dr. Seuss, because he was rejected 26 times before he got published. And that length of time and that level of frustration is something that we've seen in our neighborhood association every time we propose a new public space. And at the end of the day, persistence wins out. So.
I was thinking he was going to go with Beyonce or something. But I forgot I'm in a room full of cool nerds, just like myself. So I'm going to let her do her thing. I'm going to get off the stage, and I will be back with somebody else as cool as she is.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. So, as the housekeeping mentioned, my name is Lauren. I am a former chair of the South of South Neighborhood Association, which goes by many names, none of which anybody agrees upon. So our boundaries really just stretch from South Street down to Washington, west of Broad to the Schuylkill River. So pretty big footprint that we take up. So I'm going to talk a little bit about creating public space in Philadelphia and dealing with the sort of bureaucracy that is inherent in doing that, or as I like to call it, how we learn to stop worrying and love the bureaucracy. Anyone? Oh, no, I had it. You get to do this now. Thank you. Oh, see, this is not my fault. All right, so we have a couple of projects that we've worked on in the last probably 8 to 10 years. We had a pedestrian plaza at Grace Ferry, a pocket playground in Catherine Street Park, and a passive park at Carpenter Green. So as you can see from this map, the key to any successful public space project is alliteration. Thank you. So this is Catherine Street Park. Catherine Street Park started off as a house that kind of fell down in the 1970s, and Frank Rizzo was essentially having company over for the bicentennial, so he did what we all do and just like dumped a bunch of stuff in the closet before the company arrived and built this park for the neighborhood. It sat there unused for 30 years. There was a lot of drug dealing going on. It was just not great for the near neighbors. So Sosno worked with the city, this was city-owned property, to essentially privately raise the dollars to create a playground. And now the only drugs that are consumed are from across the street at Ultimo. So it's a really awesome public space. Our next alliterative public space is Carpenter Green. So this is at 17th and Carpenter. This was an assembly of lots that the Redevelopment Authority owned. The houses may or may not have been haunted. We just tore them down. We didn't really want to know. And this was city-owned land that was not designated as a park. It was really meant to be sold to developers, because what Graduate Hospital needs is more condos. And so here you see what is essentially phase one. So I started badgering then Council President Anna Verna in 2008 about turning this into green space. And she had just finished working on Julian Abel Park, which is 7 blocks away, 22nd and Carpenter. and just had her, basically had her fill of making new parks in the neighborhood. And then once Councilman Kenyatta Johnson came in 2011, we were able to work with his office and convince him that, hey, the neighborhood still needs green space. This is literally across the street from an elementary school. So it's a real important piece of land, real opportunity to ensure that the kids are engaged in a healthy community space. So phase one, we raised about $250,000, a mixture of private and public funds to create what we call the Shire, because we haven't done grading yet. And it basically paid for all of the infrastructure, the piping, we have water there, all of the unsexy stuff that people don't actually care about. We're in the last phase, which is about $55,000 left to go, which will pay for all the hardscaping and landscaping. So our hope is to finally be breaking ground this fall to finish up the park. And last but not least, the most difficult, the city-owned public right-of-way. How many people here have actually been down to 23rd and South and checked out the Grays Ferry Triangles? How awesome is that space? So Grays Ferry Triangles, the saga started in 2005 when the Planning Commission basically realized that, hey, this stretch of road is very underutilized and maybe we could do something cool. I talk a lot about the bureaucracy, but you have awesome allies in the city of Philadelphia. It's just a matter of finding them out, finding who they are, and just working with them, because this was a Planning Commission idea. So this is an overview of the before and the after of what the triangles looked like. In terms of difficulty in accomplishing each model, I'd like to refer to, I worked on the Obama campaign in 2012, so I have a huge soft spot for our former president. So in terms of difficulty, creating park space out of something that's publicly owned and already park space is Obama at Harvard. It is like, oh yeah, sure, why not? Everything's great. Even working with privately owned property to turn that into public space is pretty easy because you only have to convince one person, the property owner. That's like Obama as a senator, maybe he ran for office, for president, I don't know. Publicly owned non-park space is Obama 2016, and he's realized that Donald Trump is now president. Convincing the city, number one, that like something should be a park is difficult. Convincing them that something that was never meant to be a park should be a park or a public space, you see it on the man's face. So I want to do a little bit of a deeper dive into Grays Ferry and why I think this is such a unique project, and probably one that's a little bit less obvious as you guys all look at your opportunities for tactical urbanism. So this is South Street that runs, I feel like kind of white right now. So this is South Street that runs essentially east. Grays Ferry used to be a two-way street, and then the city decided too much traffic, it's only going to be one-way south. So where you see those 3 parking spots, the only as I said, this project started in 2005. And just for a historical perspective, this is Grays Ferry in 1936. This is the Catherine Thorne Fountain. This was a fountain that was installed by a bunch of activists who believed in animal rights, and so people would tie their horses up there to drink water while they shopped in the shops that are around South Street and Grays Ferry. And as you can see now, this is what the triangles looks like, and the fountain is basically used to wash your children after they eat froyo at the igloo right there. So it's come full circle. One thing I want to point out, I talk a lot about the bureaucracy, but the city, as much as it can be a pain to navigate, they can be great partners. SOSNA was working on this project. There were a couple of other neighborhoods that had similar projects, and what it ended up doing, our just sort of persistence, drove the city to innovate and create a program that was scalable citywide. And now if you meet the requirements to create a pedestrian plaza, you essentially have a roadmap, and you have allies in the Planning Commission in the city that will help you through that process. So that's why, as I said, the bureaucracy is there, but if you continue to sort of push against it and find the right people, you can change things. So lesson learned from public space making. Philadelphians love change as long as everything remains exactly the same. So a couple key points here. Pilots are your friend. So if you're like, oh, I want to totally do this different thing, and people freak out, just like, oh, it's just a pilot. It's just going to be for a year. and then people sort of back off, and then they see the sky has not fallen down, and they, okay, this isn't the end of the world. You also have to be very open to compromise. People are afraid of change, and if you go into a project with this is the vision, and if the vision is not met completely, then it's not worth doing. It's better to have 75% of what you want than 100% of zero. So we spent a lot of time negotiating with this one property owner who he was worried, and rightfully so, was worried about a loading zone that would have been eliminated. And so we spent months compromising with him to get this loading zone, and you know, he was the biggest opponent to the entire triangles. And we're standing outside one day in the spring, and the leaves are falling and the trees landing in the fountain. And he comes out and he says, you know, I was really wrong about this. This is one of the most beautiful things that we have in the city. So you got to give people a chance to get accustomed. So again, pilots are your friends. Be prepared for people to reject change. Number 2, public space making is a team effort, and like every successful home improvement project, it will take longer, cost more, and someone will cry. Having a great team will help you through these challenges, and I really can't stress this enough, both from a practical standpoint of you need an organization. If you're going to be entering in an urban garden agreement with the city of Philadelphia, you need to have an organization that can sign on that dotted line. You're going to need to have insurance, those things. Also, you're going to have a diversity of skills when you make it a bigger project. You can go it alone. I like to joke that like one person advocating for green space is a nut. 20 people advocating for green space is a registered community organization. Lastly, and this is actually a screenshot of some awesome hate mail that I got. Public space making in the city of Philadelphia is not for the faint of heart. Not everybody will agree with what you're trying to do, and not everyone will support you. You might even get some hate mail. My favorite part of the hate mail is that she referred to as an Indigo station as a bike vending machine. Keep in mind that bike vending machine is the 5th most used in the city, so, but it is, the most important lesson I've learned through all of this is that it is absolutely 100% worth it. And I was actually having trouble coming up with photos of the triangles today because there was always so many people in the photos that you couldn't even see what they were in. And then here's just a bonus photo of the dog in the fountain. All right, guys, thank you so much.
All right, so these people aren't allowed to leave because they get to answer 2 questions. I am not selfish, so I'm not opposed to somebody in the crowd having the guts to say, yo, I have a question that's really good. But if it's a bad question, you're going to have to buy your friend who came with a shot because that is not acceptable. All right, so Lauren, you did an amazing job for being the first person to go, set the bar really high.
I was supposed to go last, so
yeah.
I figured you guys would all be fatigued by then and kind of drunk, so this was...
But my very important question after seeing your presentation, Dr. Seuss, is 2005 is a really, really long time, right? So how do you keep motivated and keep your team squad goals motivated as well through the process?
So the best thing that you can do is try to phase your projects. And I think it helps both from a fundraising standpoint and a just volunteer energy standpoint. If you say like, oh, we're not going to break ground on this until everything's finished, then people, and it's a 10-year process. I have people who moved into the neighborhood 6 months ago complaining that Carpenter Green's not done yet. And I'm like, a year ago, there were literally haunted houses on the corner falling down. Like, we've come a long way. So if it's a grind. This is not something for the faint of heart, especially if you're working with the city and raising the money to pay for it. So anything you can do to phase your projects, both from a fundraising. What is this portion of our fundraising going to pay for? So with the triangles, at first it was just, we're going to pay for bollards and furniture. And then the next stage was, we're going to pay for beautification. Now our last phase is, we're going to pay for permanency. We're working with the design collaborative to come up with a, sort of like, this is it. This is going to be a street that is struck from the city's plans, and this is going to be a pedestrian plaza. If we had started out with that as our first and final goal, we would have lost all of the energy, all of the resources along the way, because people just, raising $500,000 is unfathomable to most people. raising $10,000 and then $20,000, that's something that people can get behind, and it keeps their energy level up.
Thank you, Lauren. Everybody give a round of applause to Lauren, please.